What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Francisco. This is Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 4 of my Road to Rebirth series. We are so close to Rebirth, I can practically taste it. Anyways, apologies for the delay on Part 4, y'all. It's been a very busy couple of weeks at work that set me back a bit, but here we are nonetheless. In this video, we're going to be covering the parts of the story from the Underground Shinra Test Facility all the way up to and a little bit into the Shinra Tower portion of the game, leading into what I would anticipate Part 5 being the very end culmination of the game. So we start off with Cloud and the gang navigating through the Shinra Underground Test Facility, basically trying to find and save Wedge. Nothing really of notice happens here. I mean, we just fight through a bunch of different mobs, ultimately fighting off some Shinra experiments towards the end. And about the only thing that happens here that we need to very briefly discuss is once we beat the boss, we are exposed to a hole in the wall, which behind it is like a secret hidden test lab. And upon looking at the lab, Cloud gets another migraine. I mean, this guy's got some serious headache issues going on. But anyways, as he looks into this hole and sees this little hidden test lab, he gets another flashback. And in his flashback, we see what I can confidently assume to be a flashback of his time being experimented on by Dr. Hojo while he was, I guess, captured and trapped in the Shinra mansion in Nibelheim. Once we're done with this segment of the game, again, nothing really crazy happens here. We save Wedge, we get back to Amira's house, and the next item on our to-do list here is to make our way over to Shinra Tower. But the problem is, nobody knows how to get topside, how to get to the top part of the plates of Midgard because, they dropped a massive plate on our asses. There's a great Disturbed song, by the way, about that. Anyways, so the only person who would possibly know how to get topside is going to be no one other than Don Corneo. So we go back to Wall Market and we make our way over to the Don's mansion or whatever the hell it's called, and we run into Leslie. Leslie is the only person who would actually be able to help us in a situation. So as a result of him needing help from us and us needing help from him, we go back to the sewers, which is my favorite part of the game, but not really. And much like in the underground testing Shinra facility, there's really nothing worth noting that happens here in the sewers. I mean, it's the same exact area you traversed through already earlier in the game, with the exception of a slightly, newer area. Leslie has a pouch that he claims has the key to the door that would lead us topside, and a little pig comes along, takes the bag. We chase the pig. We fight a couple of them along the way. We fight the boss. We get the bag back. And then we end up finding out that there wasn't even a key in the bag to begin with. Instead, it's like a pendant or a necklace that Leslie had given to his chick. So Leslie had a chick, dude. All right. Leslie was engaged, and Don Corneo picked and stole his chick, and she broke up with Leslie. Leslie was very sad. He was crying. He was devastated. He was heartbroken. And then now the girl's disappeared. No one knows where she's at. So Leslie kind of worked his way into working for Don Corneo to get answers / revenge. We catch up with Don Corneo. We fight the big pig again, and then Don Corneo gets away. Leslie kind of thanks us for a little bit of help and is like steadfast and carrying on with his life's mission of finding out what happened to his chick. He gives us some grappling hooks, and up we go towards the top plate so we can get to Shinra Tower. By the way, I want to take a quick moment and ask y'all a question. Do y'all want me to stream here on YouTube? Do you want me to log in maybe once, maybe twice a week, set up a schedule, and we can play games together and chill, connect, talk, discuss things going on in the gaming world? If that's the case, if you want to see that happen, I'm willing to do it. Just let me know in the comments below. Let's move on. So the party goes ahead and grabs their grappling hooks, and they head up to plates and start making their way up topside, right? And along the way, you kind of get a very good look from the top down of the complete destruction and devastation that Shinra has unleashed on its own people. You get to see the people that survived from the top plate falling down. You get to see the destruction of the Sector 7 below. It's pretty saddening thing. It's pretty sad to see this stuff, but it kind of gives you a bit more validation as to why we're doing what we're doing, right? Why Avalanche is so adamant about taking Shinra out of the equation, because Shinra is just evil. Plain and simple. And I don't think I need to really spell that out to anybody who's watching this right now, because if you've been watching this whole series, it's very evident that Shinra just sucks. So as we're making our way topside, there's, again, really nothing much to note over here. We fight a couple of waves of Shinra forces. We have a pretty awesome boss fight towards the end. And finally, we make our way and arrive at Shinra Tower. Now, the reason I'm trying to breeze through all this stuff is because as we arrive to Shinra Tower and once we make our way in, there's a lot of things that we're going to have to discuss here. So let's go ahead and get right to that now. So once we arrive to Shinra Tower, we fight our way in through like the underground parking garage. A couple of waves of different soldiers, a couple of waves of different Shinra security guards, if you will. But then as you actually enter the main lobby of the tower itself, or I guess the first floor that you would from the basement area, I noticed something that there are no alarms. There's no alerts, nothing crazy going on. After we get to the main, like the first floor of the tower itself, everything is pretty quiet. So I did a little bit of exploring, started walking around, and I actually encountered a scene that I 1000% missed my first time playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake when the game originally came out. If you look through one of the windows, off in the distance, you're going to see one of the two Mako reactors that you've destroyed already at this point, by this point in the game. And there's a really, really good scene here where Barrett kind of...
Damn fools. Ones who come here at night to take in the view. So pretty and marvelous and beautiful. But every little light burning bright runs off her blood. And bit by bit they bleed her, never stopping to think how it'll end for them.
Yeah.
Terrible but beautiful all the same.
I really liked this scene because it kind of shows off how deep of a character Barrett really is. And this kind of solidifies his character as a great character in this game already, because when I played the original game, you know, you're reading all of the text, there's no voice acting going on, and so he curses a lot. He has a lot of, he has a bit of a potty mouth, okay? And so for me, as a kid playing the game back then, Barrett was just kind of like a very outspoken and, you know, vulgar character. There was really no depth, and maybe at that time too, I was too young to really get depth from anything like that. But when we hear this conversation and this statement from Barrett here, just again, once again, showcases that there's a lot more to Barrett than what meets the eye. And I really love that about this scene. We also then see Reeve in his office looking into and assessing the total damages that Sector 7 suffered as a result of the dropping of the plate. We also hear his statements of his disagreement and dislike for how Shinra took this whole scenario on. He's obviously very disturbed at the fact that Shinra was very comfortable in literally just killing God knows how many people, hundreds if not thousands of people, for its own personal gain and for its own personal agenda. As we progress through the tower and through the Shinra offices, we inevitably run into a point where we're taking a bit of a tour, kind of like a tourist tour of like the history of President Shinra, and even down to just some breakdowns of the different departments and some of the key figures in the Shinra Electric Power Company. One of the exhibits that we run into as we do this tour is the Visual Entertainment Hall. And we step into this hall and we get some sort of like IMAX style holographic presentation where the presenter discusses, you know, in more depth the ancients. And we learn that the ancients were here long ago, and they also had the ability to commune with the planet and the life stream and harness the power of the life stream to their will, which is what we now see as materia in Final Fantasy VII as we play through the game. Throughout this presentation, it becomes evidently clear firsthand. We already know this at this point in the game, but we hear it straight from the source that Shinra's ultimate goal is to find the Promised Land. The Promised Land being something that they believe to be a land that is rife with Mako energy to meet all their needs. We also learn in this presentation that the ancients were destroyed by a meteor, which we'll talk about more here just briefly. Once this presentation is over, however, we kind of get a little bit of a glitch and we see a new presentation pop up in the Visual Entertainment Hall, but this one is a lot more darker and a lot more sinister. We see the presentation kick off inside of Midgar with a Jenova clone sitting atop of Shinra Tower. The sky is ablaze, a meteor is coming down, fiery tornadoes are destroying the city itself, and then all of a sudden this Jenova clone turns into Sephiroth. This clone, as we can see in the scene here, kills Tifa and kills Barrett, and then all of a sudden it flashes into Cloud and Sephiroth standing back to back with the destruction of Midgar happening behind all of them. So here is where I want to pause and talk about this a little bit more in depth. We know that the ancients were killed off by a meteor. We know that Sephiroth summoned a meteor in the original game. So I want to take a different approach on this one here. Let's think of the meteor as a cyclical extinction event, much like the Reapers from the Mass Effect series, okay? In this presentation, we see Sephiroth and the meteor once again. We know that in the original, Sephiroth's goal was to become godlike. He wanted to hurt the planet with a meteor to then force the planet to use the life stream to heal itself. When the life stream would come out to heal the planet at the point of impact, Sephiroth would be there to consume and or absorb the life stream to then become godlike, achieve this godlike status. And I guess we could assume that after this would be done, he would hop planet to planet and do this over and over again to become godlike and, basically control and enslave everybody. Because, the planet is his birthright.
This planet is my birthright. Within my veins flows the blood of ancients.
Because he believes himself to be an ancient. We also know that Cloud ruined his plans in the original game, and I've assumed this entire time that in the remake, there are two Sephiroths. We have the Jenova clone Sephiroth, which we've seen in the original game, and we have that Sephiroth here as well. And I also believe that we have a Sephiroth that is a direct projection from the events of the original game. So one Sephiroth, the one native to the world of Final Fantasy VII Remake, going about his usual self, like the original Sephiroth did in the original game, and the Sephiroth from the original game, knowing full well the events of the original game and the story and how things transpired, now here trying to alter the events of this timeline to meet his ultimate goal. So back to this whole cyclical extinction event thing, right? So I believe that the original game's Sephiroth, our OG Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII Remake, is going through or is willing to go through timeline after timeline after timeline until he finds an instance where he wins, where Cloud and team are unable to stop him and he's able to achieve his ultimate goal. We just so happen to be playing through a timeline right now where maybe this is his first attempt at trying to alter destiny, which we know that's the case, right? So when I say that the meteor is a cyclical extinction event, what I mean more specifically is that there's always a meteor. There's always ancients, they're always destroyed by meteors, and there's always a Sephiroth trying to bring a meteor back down on the planet to basically assume some sort of godlike status to then carry out his and or both Jenova's will and Sephiroth's will, which really is more so Jenova's will. As for the Promised Land, this is where maybe I'm gonna lose y'all or even lose myself. As for the Promised Land, I theorize that it's not necessarily just a space, a place, but more of a combination of both time and space. Maybe the ancients foresaw all of these events happening. They could already tell and look into the future. If they can commune with the live stream, right? Follow me here. If they can commune in the live stream, if we know that Aerith communed with the live stream at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we can, I guess, theorize that the original game's Aerith projected all the knowledge from the original game over to this Aerith, because we can definitely see that there's lots of evidence of our Aerith in Remake knowing way more than she should, then maybe we can theorize that the ancients were also able to commune with the live stream in a manner that would grant them the ability to look into the future, right? So based off of that, we can say, hey, the ancients knew what was going to happen, how things were going to pan out. So instead of the Promised Land being just an actual physical place, maybe to them it is both a time and a place. A time and a place with no Shinra, no Sephiroth, and no Jenova. And if this is the case, were this to be true, then this could possibly explain why no one, including Shinra, has yet to find the Promised Land, and why no one ever will, because so long as Shinra, Sephiroth, and Jenova exist, the Promised Land will never be found, because in order for the Promised Land to actually exist, the other three cannot exist. Anyway, so next up we see Palmer walking down the hallways enjoying himself a nice little cup of tea, but drops it at being startled at the sight of Sephiroth, which at this point I would believe to be one of the Jenova clones of Sephiroth just walking through Shinra building casually like no big deal. Cloud and the gang leave the visual entertainment hall and are led to a meeting with Mayor Domino, the mayor of Midgar, which turns out to be an avalanche informant on the inside, which is also the reason why there have been no alarms, no alerts, and no security or onslaught of Shinra police or officers or soldiers this entire time that we've been in the building, because the mayor has been hard at work at keeping those people and those alerts at bay, basically making our access to the building a lot easier than it probably would have been had he not already been in place and an informant for Avalanche. After speaking with Mayor Domino, we go ahead and make our way to find one of his other informants. The informant has us take a little combat test to make sure that we are, I guess, up to snuff. Once we pass the test, which was super duper easy, he gives us a key card. This key card now gets us access to the upper floors of Shinra Tower. When we arrive to the upper floors, we make a decision to go ahead and listen in on the Shinra board meeting. So in order to do so, we go to the bathroom. And unfortunately, in this instance, we're not using the bathroom to relieve ourselves after a long, stressful day. We use the bathrooms to go ahead and get into the ventilation shaft and solid snake our way into a vent to then listen in on this meeting. In the meeting, we hear Palmer trying to tell President Shinra that he just saw Sephiroth, but nobody believes him. Ree tries to tell the president about the damages in Sector 7 and the catastrophic numbers involving the loss there. The president doesn't care. And then Ree tries to tell the president again, hey, well, look, I have a plan here for rebuilding. And president's like, nope, not doing that either, buddy. Instead, what the president wants to do, he wants to go ahead and move forward. Now that they have Aerith in custody, they want to move forward with finding the Promised Land and building Neo Midgar.
In their promised land, we will build a new Mako-powered metropolis.
Mr. President, we still don't know for sure that the Promised Land even...
Which is crazy. So then Hojo goes in and talks about, wanting to get permission to do more intrusive. And we're going to go with the word intrusive because really what we should be saying here, really creepy. Creepy and intrusive experiments on Aerith to get her to show them where the Promised Land is. To which, of course, the president's like, yeah, dog, do whatever the hell you want to do. You're good. Just don't repeat your mistake from last time, which I'm guessing is basically don't kill her again. Kind of like how Revolver Ocelot killed the DARPA chief, which then led to Decoy Octopus taking over the DARPA chief's form, etc. But anyways, whole different game series. Anyways, yeah, so president's like, yeah, dog, do whatever you want to do. So after the meeting's concluded, we get back to the bathroom again, and the three decide to, three, Tifa, Barrett, Cloud, decide to go ahead and tail Hojo and follow him back to his labs to where they know Aerith is being held. So they follow Hojo, they get to Aerith, which is exactly what happens. We catch up with Hojo and we try to coerce him into showing us to Aerith so that we can get her out. And what he basically does is that he springs a bit of a trap, releases some experimental monsters, and uses that chance to go ahead and get away. We fight the monsters, we fight this little boss fight, and we go ahead and continue to pursue Hojo all the way up to his lab. When we get there, we get to the spot where Aerith is being held. So we fight off some more Shinra, and we find Aerith and free her. In the middle of freeing her, right after freeing her rather, Red 13 shows up and chases after Hojo immediately. Red 13 is pretty pissed off as far as, everything that's probably been done to him while being a captive under Hojo's command, if you will. But much like the last video before this one, I did that thing again where I had some notes off to the side. I didn't follow my order, so we're going to backtrack here just a moment. You see, right before we free Aerith, Hojo recognizes Cloud. And Cloud is sitting there like, yo, what? I don't even know you, dog. So he recognizes Cloud and he reveals to Cloud that
my boy, you weren't a soldier.
He was never actually a soldier. When it's the moment he says this, Cloud gets another little migraine. And it looks like Hojo's about to start telling more, right? Really kind of revealing everything he knows about Cloud and everything that Cloud has basically suppressed within himself. But the moment he tries to say a single word after that, the whispers show up and push Hojo away, which was probably in an effort to stop him from revealing too much too soon, aka maintaining the integrity of the events of the original game. Once we fought off the couple of Shinra soldiers, Shinra police, whatever the hell you want to call them, we liberate Aerith out of her little holding cell, containment jar, whatever you want to call it, and we go right after Hojo again. And as we go down this corridor, all right, this long ass corridor where at the very end there's an elevator, Cloud gets another migraine. I'm telling you, this guy needs some serious help for real. So as he gets this migraine, he starts hobbling towards this elevator. And as he's hobbling toward the elevator, you hear Cloud for the very first time ever in this game. He calls out to her. And as we're walking towards the elevator, we see more visions and more, I don't want to even say foreshadowing, because if you played the original, you already know that her body's here. But you see the visions of Jenova's body being held here in Shinra Tower. And as he touches this elevator to try and open it and get to Jenova, he calls out to her. as mother, at which point Cloud just passes out. Shortly after that, we wake up in Aerith's childhood room and we learn that the Ancients are actually known as the Cetra. We learn that Aerith has absolutely no idea on whether or not she can find the Promised Land. In the same conversation, Barrett tries to kind of alter the plan. So they had an original plan going into Shinra Tower, and he tries to alter it by saying, hey, look, y'all take Aerith and get out of here. I'm going to stay behind. I'm going to bust some Shinra heads. Aerith, tries to immediately stop him and tell him that he can't do that. And the moment she says that, the Whispers immediately show up and stop her from trying to say anything more. Red 13 then goes on to explain what the Whispers actually are, and we learn that Aerith somehow transferred her knowledge of the Whispers onto Red 13 whenever she reached out to Red 13. So I'm not entirely sure if that means if when she made physical contact with Red 13, or maybe the very first time that they ever interacted. But based off of what happened with Marlene and Aerith back in the Sector 7 slums in the 7th Heaven, or whatever the fuck it's called, bar, you know, you had that instance where she hugged Aerith, and we saw that same little on-screen distortion that Cloud gets. I'm assuming that maybe Marlene kind of learned some things from Aerith by touching her. So I can also assume that the same thing may have happened whenever Aerith made some first initial physical contact with Red 13. Red 13, of course, goes on to explain that the spirits we've seen throughout the entirety of Final Fantasy VII Remake are known as Whispers, and they are basically here to make sure that destiny is not altered. And yes, it is destiny with a capital D. As these Whispers are swirling around Aerith, Aerith tries to explain that
the Shinra Electric Power Company isn't the real enemy. It started with them, sure, but I promise you, there's a much bigger threat. I just want to do everything in my power to help all of you and the planet.
However, I think that in this instance and in this statement that she makes here, she's not necessarily just talking to, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, and Red. I think she's also trying to address the Whispers so that the Whispers can stop fucking around with her. Tifa asks her again, like, what are you not telling us? Aerith mentions that she loses a part of herself whenever these spirits touch her, whenever the Whispers touch her. And now I'm starting to wonder now, if she's losing a part of herself every time the Whispers make contact with Aerith, is she losing a part of herself, or are they robbing her of the knowledge that she would have gained from the original game's Aerith when she was communing with a live stream at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII Remake? And I'm very inclined to believe that that is the case. They are stealing this knowledge away from her because they don't want her to have all this knowledge of how the original events transpired, so that she doesn't, or so rather, so that they don't run the risk of her altering the events, having known how everything transpired in the original game. After this is all said and done, we make our way back through Hojo's lab, and we make our way down to the drum where Jenova is housed. As we approach Jenova's containment cell, body, jar, whatever the hell you want to call it, that's fine. As we approach Jenova, Sephiroth, of course, Sephiroth shows up. And the actual, this isn't just Sephiroth as far as like the mind, the Sephiroth that Cloud has in his mind or in his head. This is the actual physical, a tangible form of Sephiroth that shows up. And I can verify this, and everyone can verify this if you play the game, because everyone reacts to Sephiroth's presence. And if you need some more evidence that this is an actual tangible Sephiroth and not just a mind game or some sort of projection, Sephiroth makes a couple of comments to Cloud, at which Cloud gets very angry. He runs at Sephiroth, lunges at him, and tries to hit him with a sword, which is an attack that Sephiroth physically actually blocks with his own sword. He pushes Cloud away, knocks him down, and propels Cloud all the way back down to the very bottom levels of the drum. While all this is going down, specifically this interaction between Cloud and Sephiroth in front of Jenova's body, Hojo is watching the whole time, and he's very, very, very happy. He mentioned something about his hypothesis being correct, and I'm guessing this has something to do with the S cells, Sephiroth's S cells, being inside of Cloud. What's up, y'all? Hey, so I'm going to interject here for just a second because I kind of went off on a tangent here with the S cells and this whole thing, and I ended up doing some more research after the fact, and I was totally way off the mark on this one. So, S cells. S cells are the Jenova cells inside of Sephiroth that were extracted and used to experiment on various amounts of soldiers, if you will, including Zack and Cloud. One of the unique things about S cells and why we think, or I think that Hojo is fascinated with Cloud, and I believe this is, fairly common knowledge, is that in the other trials that the S cells were infused and injected into other people, the S cells lost their unique traits or unique properties, the Jenova properties, over a period of time. The cells just lost it. They weren't anything special after some time. Cloud, as far as I know, as far as from what I read, Cloud is the only person who's got these cells in his body where the cells retained their Jenova unique properties, right? So instead of wasting your time on a tangent that ended up being completely wrong, what Hojo is referring to here as his hypothesis being correct, I believe is actually in reference to Reunion, where Reunion and his Reunion theory is the fact that, they took Jenova apart into pieces and, have her all over the planet here. And that the theory basically says is that these cells and these body parts and anybody, I guess, touched by Jenova or has Jenova cells in them have a compelling need to gravitate to Jenova. And I think this is exactly what Hojo is referring to when he says that his hypothesis is correct, is because this is the first time I believe he's witnessing both Sephiroth and Cloud together at the same exact time, exactly where Jenova is. So, yeah, let's move on. Anyway, we proceed through the rest of the drone. We fight through multiple levels. We participate in some of Hojo's experiments. Basically, he wants to use us as lab rats to fight against some of his experimental monsters, and we will make our way back to where Jenova was inevitably kept. But this time around, when we open the doors to the elevator, she's gone. Like, she's gone. Bye-bye. All right? It's a pretty big mystery to the crew here as to what happened to Jenova. Where did she go? What in the world happened here? You can just see all the pipes and everything else were just obviously sliced down. And then there's just a trail of Jenova goo, which we follow all the way to President Shinra's office. When we get to President Shinra's office, we find President Shinra hanging off the ledge of the balcony calling for help. Barrett uses this opportunity to try and leverage President Shinra's life.
You're gonna get on TV and tell him. Tell him what you did to Sector 7. That it was you who killed all those people. Then, you're gonna tell them the truth about Avalanche. That Avalanche ain't Wu-Tai or anybody's puppet.
As a bargaining chip to have the president confess to the people of Midgar of his crimes, to confess to the fact that Shinra and President Shinra were the ones who dropped the plate on Sector 7, that Avalanche and Wu-Tai are not in cahoots, etc. Basically, just get on air and confess everything. And while this is all going on, Barrett had pulled him off the ledge. The president made his way back into his office. He gets behind his counter. I'm guessing Barrett this whole time thinks that he's going to go ahead and hit that go live button and start telling these people all the truth. But of course, that's not what happens, because what President Shinra actually does is he pulls out a golden gun. So my boy, President Shinra, has prestige quite a bit in life, and he has a golden handgun, which he aims at Barrett and goes off on a little bit of a monologue. And right as he's about to pull the trigger to kill Barrett, somebody stabs him. That somebody being Sephiroth. At the sight of Sephiroth killing President Shinra, Barrett, in a fit of rage, lunges at Sephiroth to attack him. Now, here's the thing. I'm more inclined to believe that Barrett isn't angry that the president is dead. I think Barrett's angry that he was robbed of killing the president, or bringing the president to justice, if you will. So either way, he lunges at Sephiroth, and immediately he is swarmed and surrounded by the Whispers, because he's not supposed to attack Sephiroth. Not to mention the fact that he's got nothing on Sephiroth, and Sephiroth could just easily fuck his world up in the blink of an eye, which, oh my god, that's exactly what happens. See, Sephiroth does this thing where he just blinks right through the Whispers and kills Barrett right there. Stabs him with his sword and kills him right there on the spot, no questions asked. As Barrett goes down, the Whispers get immediately to work in trying to save him and preserve his life, because this is not how or when Barrett dies. And by the way, if you've never played the original game, Barrett doesn't die in the original game, so he's not supposed to die here and now, and he's not supposed to die in Final Fantasy VII Remake or whatever is going to be after Rebirth. But hey, the ending of Remake might dictate the fact that some things can happen very differently, and we'll get to that in the next video. Let's continue. Once he's stabbed Barrett, Sephiroth turns around and starts walking back towards the President Shinra's office desk, and he also is swarmed by a bunch of Whispers. Now, I'm assuming that he's walking back to pick up Jenova's body, or just to proceed with whatever it is that he's doing there, and something really peculiar happens here. He's swarmed by the Whispers in an attempt to stop him from doing whatever it is that he's trying to do next. Now, here's the thing. The Whispers this entire time have acted in a manner of preserving the events of the original game, and we can even say in preserving Destiny, right? Destiny with a capital D. In the original game, Sephiroth escapes Shinra Tower, and he escapes with Jenova's body. So why would they, the Whispers, do anything or try to do anything to try and stop him? And what I think here is that the Whispers, they're not as innocent and pure as we probably would have originally thought they were. You see, yes, they're here to make sure that the events of the original game carry on as they originally did. Yes, they're here to make sure that Destiny unfolds as Destiny is meant to unfold, but I also think that they're working in the interest of self-preservation, which is a very powerful motivator, right? So the Whispers know that Sephiroth and Jenova are basically here to fuck shit up, right? So it is in their best interest to try and thwart him, specifically him, as much as they possibly can, to the point where they try to get directly involved here in President Shinra's office and stop him from carrying on. But as you see here, Sephiroth just takes his sword and slices him away and just moves on like it ain't no big deal. What this then tells me is that, number one, Sephiroth cannot be influenced by the Whispers in any way, shape, or form. And number two, the Whispers will once again try to do anything to alter the events, even against the original game's events, as long as it meets their will or their ultimate goal. Anyways, once Sephiroth slices him away, he kind of gets swarmed here with like some sort of purple mist thing, and then he transforms into Jenova Dreamweaver, which Aerith refers to as the source of everything, which I'm assuming means everything that is wrong, bad, or evil in this world in Final Fantasy VII Remake. This, by the way, is probably one of the best fights in the entire game. And I don't necessarily mean mechanically. I think just everything that has led up to this point, this was such a great climax of a fight, but it's not the best fight. The best fight in the entire game is coming up here in the next video. But such a great fight, and then that soundtrack that kicks in, the Jenova theme song that actually fully kicks in the final phase of this fight is absolutely fantastic, dude. Like, I got so hyped the very first time that I played this game when we hit this part, when we hit the final phase and Jenova's theme song just kicks in full to the max. It was so fantastic, super badass shit. But anyways, once we defeat Jenova Dreamweaver dissipates and we see clone number 49 die right there in front of us. So we have Dreamweaver, we kick its ass, right? It dissipates and it basically reverse transforms back down to clone number 49, which we had seen, if I recall correctly, in Sector 7, in the room next to Cloud's room at the hotel he was sleeping at. Once his body dissipates as well, we see Jenova's body laying next down to what would have been number 49's body, and Cloud makes his way to Jenova's body, I guess, to try and recuperate it. But as soon as he does that and takes a couple of steps toward Jenova's body, Sephiroth shows up once more and steps up to Jenova's body. He kind of picks her up and looks at Cloud in a very weird way, and in an effort, I guess, to somewhat distract him, he looks off to his side in the direction of an approaching helicopter, which is Rufus's helicopter, and which we'll see here in the next video. And then Cloud is also distracted. He looks towards the helicopter, and when he looks back, Sephiroth is no longer inside of President Shinra's office, and we can see him outside of the window with Jenova's body in his arms, and he just takes flight. Just floats away, and he's gone. As soon as that happens, we see Barrett wake up. He's saved, he's alive, he's good to go. He says a nice thank you to the Whisper that saved his life. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where we will stop. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, y'all. I'm so happy that we're almost at the very end of the game. My goal here is to make video number 5 the absolute final video of my Road to Rebirth series, where we cover the events of the entirety of this game. If you are enjoying this, let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the comments below, what are your theories? Do you think I'm crazy? Am I just missing some things here? Please, I love the conversations. I love reading y'all's comments, especially during a long ass day at work. Y'all are amazing. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Y'all are awesome. Let's keep it going. Until next time, be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. Peace out.